Members of the armed forces serving abroad will now be banned from paying for sex while deployed. It's part of a new crackdown on unacceptable behaviour in the forces, which will see anyone engaged in sexual activity where there's an imbalance of power discharged.
Life's moved on. It's a different generation. I was in the army in 1991 in Germany. Things are different. We want more and more women to be, in our forces, and we have to bear in mind that all that means a different environment, and we have to set the parameters for those environments and make very clear what's acceptable.
The Ministry of Defence hopes these new rules will provide a better working environment for those serving, especially women. It says the new policy is intended to improve the career experiences of serving personnel, providing clearer tri-service direction to those in a position to prevent and address instances of sexual offence.
If I talk to the average young woman going into her early 20s, there is a lack of acceptance of sexual exploitation of women in a way that wasn't present or was not articulated even 30 years ago. So we are in a different time place, and we are trying to attract, at a time of high employment, a 30% inflow of women into the armed forces. Somehow that has to be addressed.
But the ban on paying for sex only applies to those who are serving overseas, meaning personnel in the UK aren't covered by the new rules on conduct.
Well, I just think it shows a degree of hypocrisy to say it's not okay abroad, but it is okay in the UK. Women are frequently trafficked into this country and forced into a form of servitudal bondage as sex workers. So what are we saying here? It's not okay overseas, but it's okay in the UK. And I'm very nervous about that. How do we ensure that members of the armed forces are not visiting the same sorts of establishments in the UK where women are being sexually exploited? It is almost a knee-jerk reaction that is not looking at the reality of what is happening in the UK. I think it's more to do with the discovery of the murder in 2012 of Agnes Anjuru. And yes, it is something as part of Women, Peace and Security and the Women's Championship of the sexual exploitation and targeting of women in conflict zones that we need to be tackling. I just wonder if it has been fully thought through about exploitation of a workforce here in the UK as well.
As well as cracking down on the use of sex workers, the new rules will see sexual relationships between instructors and trainees banned.
Well, what we've been trying to do with all these changes is make sure that the chain of command are incentivised to actually do the right thing, or, where necessary, remove the chain of command to make sure that complaints are dealt with out with that command, because it's often quite difficult for subordinates to make complaints to people who may be the abuser or indeed within that same environment. So we are removing a whole range of things from that chain of command, but also to make sure we put in some more, we're planning to put some service offences in the mix, and details will be announced. But absolutely, we've linked, for example, the Ombudsman. If the Ombudsman finds that a commander has failed in following the process, that can be held against that commander in their career. So I think it's all about exactly that challenge, is marrying up all the guidance with the people delivering it.
The new zero tolerance policy aims to send a clear message on the standards expected of anyone serving, and to make sure those who are in the armed forces know that falling short of them will not be tolerated. David Civils McCann, Forces News.